I hope you're hungry because I'm hungry and I'm hungry to learn today, my friends. You like that? You didn't know that was coming in the
Yeah, no, kind of surprised me on that one,
There
Chris.
you go. So Big Daddy's hungry, and if you've followed any of my socials, Insta and Facebook, you'll see that I have not missed a meal lately. But
your doctor shouldn't be listening to this podcast.
funny enough, yeah. So he asked, he asked, so is it high? I said, well, we call it gout light. I said,
That's right.
he goes, how's your blood pressure? I said, what's it supposed to be? I said, well, I'm an overachiever. I'm a little higher than that.
Yeah.
So we got that going for us. No, we got a great guest today. And so before I introduce him, I want to tell him how I best remember him. We were here in Atlanta. Everybody knows we live in the Johns Creek area, and he had opened up a gourmet burger operation. And he, through the chamber, said, hey, come on in. And if you come in, you get a discount. And that's how I did it. So I went through and I brought my kids in there, and we were eating. And I was talking with him, and he says, hey, what do you do? And, handyman. And he said, well, how long have you had it? I said, well, I started in 2008, and this is probably 11, 12, right in that range.
So are you thoroughly disillusioned at this point, or?
Well, I was thoroughly getting my hamburger kicked in, as it were. And he comes up and he takes the time. The place is hopping, and he takes the time not only to chat with me, but he chatted me up to my kids, because my kids were like, he's like, what your dad's doing is one of the coolest things anybody could ever do, and that's start his own business and see it through. And I was like, man, that was really cool, because
that is awesome.
I could see my kids hearing somebody else say that for the first time, literally the first time. And they were both like, huh, I guess it is kind of hard what dad's doing. I'm like, yeah. What he said. But it was cool. And so from that, we'd stayed in touch. And, I've got this podcast with Alan that we've been doing here, and you guys have all been listening. And I've been waiting for the right time to bring Phil Wilkins back on. And I pinged him again. And he said, man, I'd love to come on. So we have Phil Wilkins, who I met in that brief instance, but that's not the definition of who this guy is.
Not even close.
It is not even close. So everybody, I hope you're hungry, because you're about to get fed on how it really takes to make it happen. Phil, thanks for joining the show, my man.
Chris and Alan, thank you. I love the intro. That was great.
So now we've been told sometimes we can linger a little too long on the history. I said, but in this case, the history defines kind of how he got to where he is. And so, Phil, you were a McDonald's operator for over 30 years, or just short of 30 years? 23 years. Yeah. So I think the story of how you got into the McDonald's franchise system is fascinating. So could you just tell us all a little bit about how old you were, what you were doing, and why all of a sudden you said, hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to do it like this. And oh, by the way, I'm going to make millions of dollars.
And you had a big pile of cash to hand them, and they said, sure.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So in that intro,
we'll let you think that way, right?
Am I off a little bit?
Quite a bit.
Yeah, it's not unusual.
That's great. No, it's super. Yeah. So I guess, real quick history. I mean, I started working at Procter & Gamble, transitioned from there, square peg, round hole, then went to Baxter Healthcare, where I was in sales for like 9 years. Every Christmas, holiday season, it was like time for restructuring. And I never will forget this one year. I was in my basement, just bought a house. I was probably about 25, 26 years old. And I read an article in Money Magazine, and it showed this guy on the cover with French fries coming down on his head. And I was like, man, let me read that. And I read the article, and I thought, wow, I can see myself, owning a business, and burgers and fries is something that I understand, like burgers, fries, and drinks. I get it. I'm good with that.
So healthcare to burgers and fries doesn't seem to be kind of a natural path.
Well, we were kind of keeping them in the industry. I was kind of just
your feet.
That's awesome.
I was helping my friends out back there a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, go over to McDonald's, order it up. Hey, by the way, I have this great statin you can order.
That's right.
That's going to bring down your cholesterol. So let's keep feeding the beast, baby.
Yeah. So I read
that's what they call the long play.
Yeah, right. I read that article, and I started thinking, like, who do I know? And I never realized like how important networking and building connections would be for me, really throughout life after that, and so I met a McDonald's owner who was actually in Rochester, New York. The guy's name was Herb Washington. Herb was a great mentor of mine. And actually, little history, Herb was the world record holder at one time in the 60-yard dash and was hired by Charlie Finley as a designated base runner for the Oakland A's and won a World Series ring.
Classic.
But anyway, Herb opened up his books and showed me his books and, said, hey, look, there's a lot of opportunity here. And whatever you do, don't let money stand in your way. And I never realized how prophetic that would be. So I finally met the McDonald's people. They thought I had money because I was introduced by Herb. And so when they asked me to complete the application, I was going through it and it had like all these different criteria, had leadership experience, marketing experience, willing to relocate, and must have $100,000 of unencumbered cash. Ruh-roh.
Right. So check the box, check the box, check the box.
Oh, no.
I only had about 10, and I'm not talking about $10,000 either. I'm talking about $10. But I applied anyway. And shortly thereafter, I quickly got the rejection letter back. And I remember sitting around the table, reading that letter and looking at my wife and saying, I can't believe they don't see the fit. Now you could tell I was 26, I was young, and I was stupid, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean,
Optimistic. We'll say optimistic.
entrepreneurial.
that's right.
Yeah, that's
Optimistic.
Yeah.
So I made a decision and I asked her, I said, what do you think if I call this guy? And she said, what do you have to lose? And she's absolutely right. We were already broke, so I picked up the phone and I called the guy and I said, Harry, I said, I got your letter, but I think you made a mistake.
Mhm.
And he said, no, we didn't make a mistake. You just don't have any money. And I said, well, that's not a character flaw, right? That's just a moment in time. And so at the end of the day, I said, hey, listen, can I stay in touch with you? And I knew I had to create a plan to really show him the level of commitment that I had, moving forward. So I began to write him a letter, and I did so pretty much every month for a period of 3 years. And it started out, Harry, I'm at $10,000. This is what I had when I first applied to buy a McDonald's, right? And I was mad that they rejected me, but Harry, I'm at 10,000. Next month, I'm going to be at 15. I'm at 15. I'm going to be at 20. I'm at 20. I'm at 25. And I tell people, during the workshops and the presentations that I give is this: if you cannot control the cash flow in your own house, how are you ever going to do it in a business? And that was really foundational
Freaking
for
gold
me.
nugget that is.
Yep.
Wow.
That was really foundational for me. And so that took 3 years. And then after 3 years, they called me and they said, okay, you're up now to about 85, 95,000. We're going to start you in the program. And I thought at that point I could quit my job and work in the restaurants and kind of learn the business. And he said, no, you're going to keep your job. There's no guarantees. You're going to work in the restaurant to learn the business, and you're going to do it for free. And you have to average at least 20 hours a week. So Monday through Friday, I found myself traveling.
Is that
in
normal?
4 states.
Is
I
that
think I was on the remedial program, Alan, to be honest with you. But
Looking back at it now, I think I had the short bus that they offered me.
yeah.
Because you got to love
Yeah.
that. Hey, no, you're going to keep your job.
Yeah.
And that's a 40. And let's face it, there's no way Phil was.
I mean, that's like an old world apprenticeship or something like
Right.
that. That is mind blowing. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting there thinking,
It
for the
is.
3 years you're saving the money. I mean, at any point, were you just getting more and more obsessed with this whole idea? And I mean, falling more and more in love with McDonald's every month, or was it just a spite?
Obsession is about right, because I know I read that article at least 1,000 times, and I will honestly tell you that I never once looked at it like, oh God, I got to go into work tonight. It was always something where I was always excited about doing it, and I knew when that excitement left, it was time to go. But I was always excited about going into work. I was always excited about reading that article. And to this day, even though it's 30 years plus, I can remember the details of that article. I mean, this guy's, the article that I read, his wife's name was Brenda, and she was an accounting supervisor at Atlantic Richfield, and she made $35,000 a year, and they generated $5 million in sales and revenue and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I could still remember vividly the details of that article, and I read it over 1,000 times easily.
All right, so here we are. You're working, you're saving some money. This is 3 years in. Of course, you didn't have any kids, no encumbrance, right?
No. Our
Whoops.
Kids were starting to come at that point. We're beginning to build a family.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
hon, you take care of the kids. I'm going to work, and then I'm going to go to this other gig for free. She's like, all right, cool. Have fun.
Yeah.
And
She's
at
the
that
same.
time, you're 27, 28, and you're working with 17-year-olds, right? 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
And you're going, yeah, this is for me. Yeah, I'm digging this.
Right.
So, all right. So you didn't get disillusioned. You stay the path. Then they finally obviously took one of your letters and finally said, man, if we don't give this guy an opportunity, I don't know what to do, but I can't get another flipping letter from this dude.
Right.
You wore him
right.
down.
Well, all total, it took 6 years, and I got my first restaurant in Cincinnati. After saving for 3 years, working in the stores for free for 3 years, then I got the first restaurant in Cincinnati, ran that for 3 years, then went to Lexington and ran those 4 for about 10. We ran 4 until about 2010, 2011.
Now, when you first got that store, I mean, I can only imagine how excited you were, but were you ready? I mean, going from working for free.
Yeah, and you know what? My salary just went through the roof. Not. You start a business. And I mean, I took a 70% cut in pay.
How many?
A 70% cut in pay.
So you quit your job. You were at you were in the corporate zoo at that time, Baxter. It doesn't matter who, but you were making good coin, right? You had a 401k, you had healthcare, and you said, "No, here I go." Did you just quit and then next Monday you were in the store?
Yeah, because you had to dedicate full effort. So I mean, I don't mind telling your audience this because I think I probably wrote about it somewhere, but I was making $125,000, as a sales manager back then. And my salary went from 125 basically down to 40. And, as an owner, and I remember calling my accountant and saying, what in the hell did I do? But then, she kind of explained to me like, hey, look, you're building equity in this business. And, that was one of the beautiful things about McDonald's. It was a very cash flow oriented type business where you could build equity in those restaurants. And, for me to build that type of equity over a 7-year period of time, I wouldn't have been able to do that in corporate America. So, when you're on that business side, you really have to look at, both sides of the equation here, not only just the money that you're pulling out, but hopefully the equity that you're building, and what you're building for your family.
Was it McDonald's or nothing? Or did you say, as I'm doing this, I read the article, did you investigate any other opportunities in the fast food industry?
I probably have, and if I really would have dug deeper, I probably would looked harder at Chick-fil-A, but to be honest, but I think for me it was really, this is a proven path. To me that was the key thing. It was a proven path and a proven entity, and the fact that I could kind of see people, who were accessible, and it was tangible for me, so I could really relate to that, and that was really an influencer for me.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, no reason to look at it. We talk about this quite a bit in the podcast, is that sometimes you choose entrepreneurship and sometimes it chooses you. Sometimes you choose your industry and sometimes it chooses you. And more often than not, somebody is choosing it for you. And in this case, Phil read an article and then stayed on the path, not just for 3 years, but 6 years.
That's unbelievable.
That's focus. That's dedication. That's what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. And then going from 125 to 40, nobody sees that. Nobody sees, oh my God, I got a couple kids at home. I got a wife. I got cash flow. I got a nut. I got to get covered every month. And now I'm doing this. It had to be tough. I mean, you had to sit there. You've even said that. I mean, there were times where you're like, whoops, I got to go.
Yeah, no, it'll test your faith, and I never will forget. I mean, I'm not trying to make the show religious today, but I will never forget being in my basement and shortly after acquiring everything, and I had all the bills hitting at once. Taxes, uh, food bills, everything. And I just remember looking up at the sky down in the basement and saying, "You did not put me here to fail," you know. And I think sometimes that's all you have really to rely on, because everyone else is going to think your dream is crazy. And my mom, God bless her soul, she thought, she asked me, "Why are you doing this to your family?" You know,
Oh,
and it's hard, but you have to believe and you have to have that, unwavering commitment that you're going to see it through. And we don't take L's here, we learn. We don't lose, we learn. And we just have to stay focused and keep moving forward.
as you grew the business, you went from one, and you mentioned you went to multiple stores. What was the next hardest transition for you after you had one under your belt? Was it the second one or was it the fourth one?
Yeah, going from 3 to 4, I realized I need to bring in some expertise, to just take it to a higher level. And I think, that's the tough part, like as a business owner, and Chris, I'm sure, you've gone through this where you begin to scale and you're like, okay, how do I get to the next level, and how do I find that person that can really help me get to the next level? And I was very fortunate to have had a team, and they realized, hey, you know what, this is what you do well. You're out in the community, you're a cheerleader, we need you to do that. We need you. I knew what I wanted my restaurants to feel like every single day. To get there every single day, to be mundane and operational, that wasn't my expertise, but I brought someone in who was that way. And he was, he was excellent at that. And then I had a business manager, and she was excellent, with the administrative things, so that I could really focus on building relationships, in the community, talking to Chris's kids and getting him, and their kids to come back to the restaurants, and being that good corporate steward. And that was just a very, important role for me, and it worked out really, really well.
So the big point I take away from that is in the beginning, you have to be everything, right? Because you can't afford not to. I mean, you go from 125 to 40. Oh, I'm going to go hire an operations manager. I'm going to hire a business manager, and I'm going to hire 3 other managers who are going to cover shifts. No, you're doing it all. And then
Right.
that's why I asked that question, because as we scale, it's hard, especially when you're running up that mountain and just going. It's to sit back and go, okay, I need help. And where do I need the
Yeah.
most help? And how do I identify where I need the most help? Because that's also hard, because as entrepreneurs, a lot of us have a lot of blind spots, right?
Well, you know what? In my role today, and I don't mean to deviate, but I do have a bad case of ADHD. But in my role today, I do work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and especially, transportation providers. And one of the things that I talk to them about is, when it's time to scale, there's really 5 things that we have to kind of pay attention to, in my opinion. And I acronymed it and called it ROPES, and that is resources, operations, people, execution, and systems. Right? Those are the 5 things that, in my opinion, you have to take inventory of. And one of those, with resources, one of the key things that we have to take, really just kind of be mindful of, is really where we are mentally and physically in the game. Are you mentally and physically capable of growing and scaling? Because so often, that's just an extra effort, an extra level of commitment that you have to like ratchet up. And if you're not in, great physical and mental condition, then you know what, you might want to pump the brakes a little bit. And then
So you're
secondly,
saying, hey, Chris, just stick to one location. Is that what you're saying?
Too late. I'm already in
Yeah.
2, but I'll drink to
too
that.
late, as he takes a drink.
Right. And the body's dragging, my friends. The body is dragging.
Nobody's ever said that before, because usually when you think about scaling, it's just cash flow. But
Nah.
well, that's
No, I mean, I truly believe in that. And it's so weird. Like every time that I try to take on a new venture, I find myself getting in the best condition that I can be in physically and mentally, first. Because I guess just because of what I've gone through, I just anticipate the lift being extraordinarily hard.
That's a great way to put it too. The lift. I mean, if you've ever lifted weights or done work, to get to those heavy lifts, to get there and to build yourself up, it's hard, and you got to get yourself ready for it. And it just does. You just don't walk up to the bar and go, "Yep, here we go. Throw on 5, 6 plates, and I'm just going to yank the sucker." No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And then to do those incrementals, that's I think that's the hard part, especially it's seeing it. And you said you help people through it through the ropes program and what you do when you help people. Do they come to you and say that, or do you see people and reach out to them?
Well, a little bit of both. I mean, right now, I guess to kind of take you through the career piece, I was in McDonald's for 23 years. We got up to 8 restaurants, $20 million. We retired, we exited out. I was trying to figure out what to do. During that time period, I also had a speaking business when I was with McDonald's and was doing a lot of, consulting work with financial advisors and helping them understand how to prospect business owners and those kinds of things. And I was like, what do I do next? You know, and I took some time off, and I had a friend who was working at this company, which is called Motive Care, and he was the COO at the time. And he was like, "Hey, look, I think I've got a role for you." They brought me in as a senior vice president, reporting to the CEO and on the executive leadership team. But really, what I'm doing today is working with our transportation partners, and we have about 3,500 of them around the country, small business owners that provide rides for people who are on Medicaid and Medicare, who need to get to their doctor's appointments and those types of things. And so for me, it's very fulfilling work because I had, a lot of family members that could have benefited from a service like this. And so I help those small business owners now really, understand when is the appropriate time to grow and scale. Let's not get over your skis. Let's be a little comfortable. Let's make sure that we're transitioning the right way. We're hitting our standards. We have systems in place so that we can follow up and those kinds of things. So what I'll do right now, Chris, is if someone's out, external and they want to reach out to me, great. But primarily if I'm working with them, with this business, it's primarily internally. I'll work with them, but sure, I'm open and receptive to, people who might want some help.
No, that's great what you're doing now. Why didn't so that there you go, Motive Care. Wow, talk about fulfilling job right there. But I got to go back to McDonald's, which is equally filling. I don't know about
that was a horrible.
All right, let's go. So how I met you was not in the McDonald's franchise. I met you in a gourmet burger when the gourmet burger craze was kind of going big, and you got down here. So tell me a little bit more about how let's talk about this. So you had your 8 or 4 or how many restaurants you had at the time, and you decided to go gourmet burger route. Why did you think that was going to be the right way to go?
Well, I think it was a matter of, being young and wanting to grow and scale and, really kind of being frustrated. And I will say, my father used to say to me all the time, "Hey, Phil, you need to be patient." And I never really got what he meant, and I think if there's one, area where it's like, man, I learned from him on that day. The one thing I probably should have done is just kind of stayed put, with where I was in McDonald's and not made the move to Smashburger. But at the same time, I had an opportunity to become an area developer down here and had the potential to open 20 plus restaurants. And I thought, you know what, if I'm going to take a chance, now's the time. It's a good time to sell. I sold at a great time, did really well and opened up 5 stores here. And shortly after opening, I realized this dog can't hunt the way I think it can, I think it should. So I, basically approached the leadership team and said, I'm not going to invest any more money at it. And we had to negotiate and haggle a little bit, but we got out of it. And then shortly thereafter, I was just talking to the president of McDonald's USA. She was a great friend, Jan Fields. I love her to death. And out of the blue, she was like, "When are you coming back?" And I thought, "Are you kidding me?" And she said, "No." She's like, "I want you to come back." She's like, "You were good at what you did. Why wouldn't you come back?" And so once she said that, it was just time to make the move. It was like, let's go back.
Well, good on Jan for bringing you back because most people would not do that, right? You just told McDonald's, screw you. I know you're the best operator in the fast food industry in the hamburger space. I'm going to go something else. And when she says, hey, you can come back. Whoa.
Well,
Obviously,
you know
you didn't
what?
burn a
The
bridge.
cool
You
thing
did the
is,
right thing.
though, I think, Chris, one of the things I did do before I left is I called Jan directly and I told her, hey, listen, I love the brand, you know, but at the end of the day, how do I grow? You know, because the market was so saturated with operators and I did not see a path forward for growth. And she actually encouraged me to take the opportunity. And the people that were heading up that company, the Smashburger at the time, had McDonald's ties. So it wasn't like, hey, you know what, screw you, I'm out, you know, whatever. I mean, that might be the perception that I think some people probably had within McDonald's, but that was furthest from the truth. I always loved McDonald's, always wanted to stay. I just couldn't find a path forward. And I tried, believe me. I mean, I looked at opportunities down in Dallas. I looked at opportunities down in Florida, you know, to see how can we grow and scale here. And we just couldn't figure it out. So it wasn't a matter of, and I've never burned a bridge anywhere. Well, maybe one, but it wasn't a matter of.
Well, there was that one, but well, he
there
deserved
was,
it.
there,
And
yeah, there probably
you know,
was
his
that
legs needed
one.
to come out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, he's hobbled a little bit. He's just nicked up.
Yeah, you know, that one concept in Atlanta, I just was like, yeah, that's, you know.
But I think we'll go ahead, Ellen.
Well, no, I just find it so fascinating. You're very successful, kind of in the same business, burgers. You've got the gourmet burger, and then you've got the one everybody grew up on. And you would think it would just be a simple transition to the, but it is it the fact that there isn't the margins or the appetite for that gourmet side of things, or is it truly a function of when you're with McDonald's, you're with such a well-oiled process, you just can't fail. Whereas the other
Well,
side, it's a newer entity, and even though they had McDonald's ties, it just, you didn't have the, I don't know, the buying power and the economies of scale and all of that stuff.
yeah, and even the name recognition. I mean, you know, we thoroughly, you know, went through, vetted the process, went through training, looked at the demographics. I mean, I was in Alpharetta and Johns Creek. Clearly, the demographics supported, you know, a burger location like that. But at the same time, it's a matter of, hey, you know, when you think about Atlanta, you had Farm Burger, you had BurgerFi, you had uh, you know, all the different gourmet burgers that places that you can think of. And then it's a matter of how do you break through the clutter, you know, and how do you grow and scale and get through that clutter. So it was definitely different. You know, where with McDonald's you had the marketing support and those types of things, you know, television and radio, and here you're creating it. So, you know, from a learning opportunity, hands down, one of the best learning opportunities that, you know, I could ever get. Translation, I got my ass kicked.
100%. Why does it always cost me so much damn money to learn? Oh my God. Can I learn something and make a few bucks while I'm doing it? Please, just once. Just
yeah,
once.
right. But you know what? That was really the difference, you know, and it was also something where, you know, McDonald's is very habitual, especially at breakfast. I guarantee you, you go to a fast food restaurant, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, and you get a chicken biscuit and a sweet tea, say at Chick-fil-A, you're going to be there the next morning, the following morning, on your way to work. You're going to find excuses, you know, because they know how to get you in and out, and you just get into that routine. When you have a $20 gourmet burger, that's a little different routine. You know, you really have to make that customer experience great. You have to take care of that customer. You have to break through, you know, and you're continually filling that funnel of new customers and new people and new trials. And so it was a different business.
All right, that was again. You learned so much, and that's the nuance I think that I just took away. Number one, the restaurant business is so flipping hard, and the fact that you were successful at it, not just once but twice. You got to go back to it. Was he successful? Well, let's go back to those first 6 years, right? Hey, I'd like to join. Yeah, well, we like that, but except you don't have no money. All right, well, let me show you how I'm going to get there. And then you exited and you tried another one. The other thing you did, and this is the one thing we talk about quite a bit here. I think every entrepreneur lasts 1 year too long in their business before they close it, before they go, you know what, this dog doesn't hunt, to use your line. How were you able to see through it so quickly? Or do you think you were behind and you said, man, I should have shut this down earlier?
Well, yeah, I was behind. I probably never should have left. I think.
Well, there you go.
But I agree. I think you always want to see like, okay, can I get another dollar? What do I need to do to kind of clean it up to make the most, et cetera, et cetera. For that one, it just felt like it started off and then it kind of settled, and it just didn't feel right, and so like literally probably after 6 months I was ready. I was like, nah, this isn't,
Wow.
I'm not willing to do that. So I think that was a blessing, you know, from my perspective, where I could pretty much quickly see that this was a problem. We're not going to invest much more in this.
All right, so you go back to McDonald's. Jam brings you back. You build it up to 8 stores, and then you exit again.
Yeah.
And what was that exit like there? Was that a sellout to somebody outside of the institution? How does it work? Talk to us a little bit about the
No,
exit.
I mean, typically, you have options where you can sell between owners or you could sell back to McDonald's. For me, it was time. It was just I'd had enough. I was tired. I was tired.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, and when you get to, I guess one of the things that I could really talk to your audience about, bigger is not always better. Sometimes it's just more work. And when it stops, and I think I told you guys early, I never looked at McDonald's as not being enjoyable and fun. And when it no longer became that way, it was time to go, and I think when it's your time to go, the universe will tell you it's your time to go. And I really believe that, Chris and Alan, and I have the war stories, and my last 4 months were incredible. So we were trying to get out, even before COVID. Then COVID hit. Overnight, our business dropped 35%. So that's number one. Number two, we had a 10-foot wide by 30-foot deep sinkhole at our largest restaurant. Okay. There was a pipe that was buried that no one forgot, that no one remembered, and it created a void and it collapsed. And so, tarps and tractors and those kinds of things aren't real good for business, right? So that happened. Then I had a tornado at my second busiest restaurant. Then I was down to like 2 weeks away from closing. I had a fight that on my parking lot that went on World Star. And then I had a manager who had a kind of a, he liked to make adult movies and post it on an adult site. So let's just say
he didn't film one in your store, did he?
We'll leave it at that. We're not going to go there.
I'm actually, guys, I'm not muted right now. I actually have just lost it. Hey, Phil, how's your day going? Good. No, not really. Oh my God.
If you wonder if the universe is talking to you,
I'm talking sinkholes, tornadoes, adult movies, fights that go viral. I mean, name a couple more things. What else you want to do to me, huh?
Oh, we can have stories. I mean, we can have story day.
Me.
So it was
Hey, Alan, let's go
time to
start a
go.
restaurant.
So afterwards, right? I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, and I still think I have PTSD from it all, because I've kind of thought like maybe I want to get back into it. And I'm like, no, I don't.
Don't forget. Yeah. Hey, the next time you think that thought, call one of us and we'll just remind you of tornadoes, sinkholes, adult movies,
Right.
and fights that go viral. You know what? Actually, I'm doing all right. I think I'll just do some speaking and help people get to their Medicare and Medicaid appointments, which is much more fulfilling.
Right.
Phil, this has been awesome, man. Thank you for coming on. how can people reach you and follow you? Because you're still a great follow. I know you're doing a lot internally, but how would you want people to follow you and find out more about you?
Yeah, so we're in the process right now of creating our website, and it's byaeveryday.com, and that's a whole story in and of itself. byaeveryday.com, and we're building out a marketing and speaking business again. So we're definitely going to go that route and help companies connect to their ideal clients and help business owners create legacies. So that's one of the great ways of connecting with me. The other way is if they're interested in exploring non-emergency medical transportation, I'm fine with that. That email is phil.wilkins@motivecare.com. Or they can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram or even TikTok.
I like it. TikTok. Now we're talking my language. Phil, we can't let you get out of here without talking about our favorite 4 questions. First one, what is a book you would recommend for everyone to read?
There's really 2 for me that I really enjoyed. That kind of were life
Hang on, wait a
changing.
minute. Let me count. Yeah, okay, we'll allow 2.
Can I do 2?
Just say 2.
You can do 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Quiet Strength by Tony Dungy. I love that book. He's just a
that is a great
grounded
book.
dude.
Hey, that's my homeboy from Jackson, Michigan. That's
There
where
you
I'm from,
go.
baby. Oh, he is.
Okay.
Yep.
Tony Dungy's book, Quiet Strength, and then Rich Dad Poor Dad for me was life changing.
Nice. I'm glad you brought up Tony Dungy.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very good book.
Yeah, we all from my hometown. We were all like, yeah, man, we're gonna go to the league. Tony did. Well, how come you didn't, Chris? Well, slower. My hands were like stone. I was undersized. But other than that, I could have been Tony.
Right.
Well, and
By the
Tony
way,
Dungy's one of those people who you just know is a good man.
Yeah.
And he's living proof that you can be a good person and succeed in life.
Yeah.
And only got a chance to meet him once, but the people who lived across the street from me were there was 2 retired teachers at the time, and they weren't retired yet; they were still teaching. And Tony used to get tutored by them, and you'd see him, But at the time when you saw him, you're like, oh my God, but he's Tony Dungy, because he went to Michigan, he went to Minnesota, and yes,
Right.
he is all that in a bag of chips, man. He is everything you see is what you get. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, second one. I'm just so excited about that. What's the favorite feature of your current home?
I think my basement and the back patio, and really just the wood. I mean, I love backyards, and the woods. We've got wooded backyards. I love it here in Woodstock. But the patio is really cool, and I like the basement. The brick walls and that kind of stuff.
That's why I was specific about your current home, because we did talk to you about one of your homes that used to have the 45-foot tree with a Christmas topper that only could get put on by a crane that would have to go in the middle of the room. Or I had to have a unique way to put that on. So love that idea. That was good.
And that it's not far from the truth, but yes, we definitely utilize your service as a matter of fact.
That was awesome.
Could you have ever imagined when you were writing 3 years of letters to McDonald's that someday I'm going to have a 20-foot Christmas tree in my house that I have to pay people to lift with a crane?
Yes.
Really?
That was part of the dream, right?
Nice. Let's go, baby. Huh? Have a dream. Stick to it. We're definitely going to end on that one because that was good. I mean, not ending, but we got to keep going because you've seen a lot of customer service. You've seen a lot of bad customer service. But when you're out there as a customer today, what is a customer service pet peeve of yours?
Well,
you can tell he's like, which one should I pick?
I know, because in the McDonald's industry, right?
I can walk across any parking lot and any restaurant and look at the parking lot and the windows and kind of tell you the experience that we're going to have, because that's a reflection of the owner and the leadership standards.
That is so funny you use that one, because obviously all right, now the Founder movie was a little slanted based on me having read the book and seeing the movie, but I use that same image and video of talking about why we have to do things the same way when we go into people's houses. You can't say, well, they like me better because I did something else. And the one I use is when the video segment in the movie was he went up to a franchisee that was running and first getting started. And he walked up, wrappers everywhere, kids hanging out, people eating chicken sandwiches, lettuce and stuff. Everything's falling out. And he knew before he got in there that that thing was being completely mismanaged, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
You can
great
tell.
line.
You can tell. I never saw the movie. I never watched the movie, which is
How
weird.
can that be?
I read the book.
Oh.
I lived it every day. I pretty much knew.
I'd be interested if you ever do your take, but I felt like the book, little bit, I think probably a more accurate portrayal of how it already went down. The movie, you know, obviously got to heighten, sensationalize it. You got to have a protagonist and antagonist. You got to put together, and there's got to be strife, and that's what they showed a little bit more than I think really happened. But it doesn't matter. Still, I get.
I thought Michael Keaton did.
As a matter of fact, I talked to his nephew, connected with me through LinkedIn. And so that was pretty cool, you know, talking to Ray Kroc's nephew and getting the insight, you know, with him. And he was, you know, grew up in Indiana and stuff like that. And I guess Ray used to visit the family and everything. But it's pretty cool to talk to him directly and kind of get some insight from him.
That's awesome. All right, last one. I'm in the renovation business. I'm in the home repair business, but I love DIY nightmare stories. What do you got for us?
Well, I'm not a real big DIY guy. But I will tell you about a time when I moved into the house in the manor. And I'm trying to figure out where would it fit. But we had an evacuator pump in the basement, you know, that I guess when you flush the toilet, it takes the stuff and shoots it out. So I come home one day, we had a couple toilets down there, you know, a couple bathrooms, and the one would not flush. And the guy, you know, I'm literally brand new to the city. So I call our contractor. Hey, give me a plumber. This guy comes over. To your point, Chris, doesn't have great standards. You could just kind of tell. I'm like,
I like where this is heading, by the way.
No, you don't. It was not pretty. So
holy poop emoji. Everybody hold it.
He starts, you know, saying, well, you know, the toilet's bad or something like that. And I'm like, I don't know, because and so the lack of DIY, the lack of knowledge there really hurt me. And especially with the evacuator pump. So he disconnects one toilet and moves it and tries it out and disconnects another one and tries that. Can't figure it out. Finally figures out, oh, it's the evacuator pump, whatever. Puts this little rubber sleeve on this thing in between these pipes and this little silver clamp that, you know, looks like it should be on a bicycle bracket or something, and thinks that's going to hold it. And when you flush the toilet, that the tension in that pipe vibrates. You know where I'm headed, right?
Yeah.
So I walk downstairs one morning and the whole basement bedroom is flooded, and I just go into fix it mode, you know, where I'm like grabbing my gloves, go to Home Depot, grab all the Clorox that I can buy, the X-Acto knives, ripping up carpet, throwing it out. And, you know, the insurance company came and they were like, who cleaned all this? And I'm like, I did. I'm not sitting around with raw sewage in my basement for all these days, you know. And
you can't smell this through the podcast, people, but just imagine what we're thinking about, and it smells just like that.
Yeah.
Turn your fan on, man.
Yeah. You know, I mean, and that was an expensive, you know, house to repair, and
yeah,
it was like a good 10 grand, you know, so plus. So insurance wasn't real happy with me.
Bill, I love that story. Thank you for sharing that one. Hey, everybody, thanks for hanging around with us and getting here all the way to the end. If you're to the end of your drive, you're picking us up on the second spot. Maybe you're doing a walk. Maybe you're doing some lifting because this is
because you're getting ready. Because, you know, anytime you take a new venture, you got to get yourself mentally and physically in better shape, Chris.
100%. You've got to get yourself physically and mentally better shape, or I'll drink to that. No, guys, if you learn something, I told you were going to be hungry because you're going to learn something. I learned a lot. You learned a lot. We all learn a lot. BYAeveryday.com. Phil Wilkins made it happen. Thank you, Phil, for showing up, and we're going to get going. We're out of here. Go make some money.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.